Hi, everyone. This is Sheri Rosenthal. Glad to be here today. I'd like to introduce you to a very dear friend of mine, Frankie Timmers, who I've known for many years. And I've been lucky enough to have her as a co-facilitator on the amazing trip to Uxmal that we have going this November 2012. And for those of you that don't know where Uxmal is, it's in the Yucatan, and it is one of the most beautiful sacred sites in the Mayan Peninsula. So, Frankie, thank you so much for being here. I'd love you to share a little bit with all of my people here at Journeys of the Spirit, because they don't know you, a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you've come to be here on this incredible trip with me, and just share a little bit about yourself and let everybody know how wonderful you are. I know personally because we've been friends for so long, but I'd love you to share a little bit with everybody about yourself.
Oh, I'm so excited about this trip. We've been talking about it for a long time to do a trip together, and it's my first time to the Yucatan Peninsula, so I'm thrilled, and I think the place is so magnificent. I've been reading about it for a while. So much tradition and so much mythology that I think it will be really special. I was born and raised in the Netherlands, and I've been in this country over 3 decades. I can't believe it. And I was early on when I came to this country, I was really looking for a spiritual path, because I was raised in the Catholic tradition, and I discovered something called the science of mind, and I was so in love with it because it really embodied everything I had already believed and believed for such a long time, but didn't know there was a teaching. And so the science of mind philosophy was started in the 20s by Dr. Ernest Holmes. And it comes out of the transcendentalist tradition and some of the more mystical aspects of the teachings from the Judeo-Christian backgrounds. And it really embraces the idea that we are born as a blessing rather than coming from original sin. And it really teaches us to get in touch with our own essential nature, which is changeless and fully formed. And it's where we are whole, perfect, and complete exactly the way we are, which was so foreign to me. And so it's really infused with all the different traditions, but with the beauty of it and not as much with the doctrine and the dogma of it. And it's been a part of my life for 3 decades, and I continue to discover more of who I am and who we are as human beings. And I'm the spiritual director of the Center for Spiritual Living in Morristown for almost 20 years. And I love doing spiritual journeys. This will be my second one. Last year we went to Uzbekistan because I'm also very in love with the Sufi tradition and have been a part of the Sufi path for about 10 years. They weave together so beautifully because I think that mysticism is so clear, and it's about having a direct relationship with the divine, and that's where it's at for me. So they weave together beautifully. And what I love so much about the science of mind is a practice called spiritual mind treatment, which is healing prayer, affirmative prayer. And it works so beautifully with the main practice of the Sufi tradition, which is silent meditation of the heart. So it's going to be beautiful to weave those traditions together as we do our trip, with you having such amazing backgrounds in so many ways, Judaism, Toltec path, and others. So I'm excited.
I am too, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And the best part is to be able to weave those paths together without all the heavy dogma, but to really see within each path the similarities. I mean, I think if I hadn't studied the Toltec path with Don Miguel Ruiz, I would have been on a Buddhist path. So I love Buddhism. And the esoteric aspects of Judaism are beautiful, as is the Toltec path, as is science of mind and Sufism. So it's going to be really fun. And I think all of this is so important right now, Frankie, because I don't know about you. I mean, but I've seen with all the people that I'm working with right now, and of course you have a spiritual community, so you must also see this very profoundly, but so much change is going on right now with people, and they are so challenged. Everything around them, all the old paradigms are crumbling internally, externally, and people are just so confused, and they don't have clarity, and they don't know what direction they need to go in, but they're feeling a pull to recreate themselves, their lives, and their perspective, and to get out of the cage they're in and embrace their highest potential. Is that something that you're seeing in the church right now, in your community?
Yeah, it's almost like time is speeding up. There's a lot of illness, a lot of stress, a lot of people passing away suddenly. And what I see the most is something I've been working with myself, and I want to preface it because about 2 years ago, I heard myself say the word busy so much that I thought it was the most boring word in the English language. And I decided to take it out of my vocabulary, so occasionally I will call it the B word. But I hear so much, the good B word maybe, because I hear so many people saying, there's too much going on, there's too much on my plate, I'm too busy. And it's almost like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more we say it, the busier we get. And so I'm working with people on that a lot because obviously it's a symptom and not a cause.
Right.
And I think it has to do with people being pulled away from what matters most, their own spiritual nature, rest, silence, spiritual practices, because it seems that there's so much in the world that's tempting us away from our true nature. And I think it has to do with the times that we're in, whether we call it 2012 or related to the Mayan calendar. It's just a very powerful pull right now. And I think those of us who are on a spiritual path and are doing these spiritual practices every day, taking good care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, will make it through this really challenging time on the planet in a more effortless way. And we get to make the contribution that we're here to make a transition into whatever is next.
Right. And that's the thing. You know, people feel that degree of uncertainty, and for many people it's very frightening. They don't know what to do, and they're trying to think their way out of the box. And what I try to share with people so often is you can't think your way out of this one. You've got to feel your way out of it. You have to really connect with your authenticity and your integrity, because that's the only way you're going to be able to create from this point forward. And my dream on this trip is to really help people to be able to be in that place and move past all of the confusion that's going on in the mind, and to be able to have enough quiet and to be able to give them enough opportunity through the different conversations, meditations, mind treatments, being in the energy of these sacred sites, to be able to have that quiet to go into that space to get those answers. Because it isn't about any spiritual teacher or book, self-help book giving them the answer. There's no answer externally. The answers are all inside, but we're so noisy right now and so busy, as you have pointed out, doing that we're not, I don't think, in the right environment to be able to access that knowing that we all have. And that is adding to the distress, I think, that people are experiencing. I don't know. What are you seeing, Frankie?
I totally agree. And I think that to go on a journey and to give yourself the gift of moving away from where we are and going into a different environment has so many opportunities. The most important one is to step out of our regular life, where we are, what we're doing day to day, and giving ourselves a break, and at the same time to kind of observe what it feels like to be in another environment, and then to experience processes to explore who and what we really are and what is next for us, because there's something within us that already knows. Everything that we need to live our lives in a thriving way is already within us. It's nowhere outside. It's not in Uxmal. But the environment can really help us to awaken to that and then set a new intention for what's next.
Exactly. And you know, another thing that's really affected me very profoundly is what I've been getting on a very deep level is that it's time for all of us to step up and not just talk about it, but to embrace our lives very fully, to really step into that awesomeness and create from that place of freedom without fear, and to really create big right now. Because what I've come to understand is creating small and just being like minimally comfortable, we can all do that and get by. But for us to really impart change in the world means that we have to live audaciously and boldly. And I think people find that very threatening, or they feel like that's not me. I'm not one of those people that can live in that way, but they can. And that spirit that exists in each one of us, that's creating everything that there is equally within every human being. At least that's how I see it. And so if one human being can be creating boldly and hugely and helping in the world and really getting out there, all of us can. And we can all uplift the world together. And I think that's a theme that seems to be playing out as we move through 2012. And that is what's really affecting me very deeply and exciting me, because I'm interested and compelled to help people embrace that aspect of themselves, to find that within and to realize, oh my gosh, the world is waiting for you. And we are waiting for you to be everything that you can be in this lifetime.
Yeah, and I think the shift in consciousness is so much about moving from doing, pushing, getting to being. And that's why people are running like chickens with their heads off, because they think they have to run and get and make it happen and do it. But the truth is that when they become still and listen to that higher calling within, it's given and the path is shown, but we haven't learned to trust that yet. So I think that if we really begin to listen and nourish that part of us, life becomes more effortless, and it's no longer about rushing through and trying to make happen. And so there's that rubbing that's happening right now for people, where they have to make the decision to listen from a deeper place and to follow and trust. And that's not always easy, because none of us learned that. Most of us did not learn that. Actually, it was discouraged.
Exactly. I come from a very mental perspective, so I totally get it. But one thing that I really love, Frankie, is the fact that in the journey that we're going on, we're going to visit a very interesting ruin. Well, we're visiting a few ruins, a major ruin and what's considered some minor ruins. But I really love the mythology of Uxmal and how we can use that to work through our process right now. And, you know, Uxmal actually means thrice built.
Built.
Right, thrice built, and it represents the underworld, the middle world, and the upper world of human cosmology. And, we can imagine the underworld consisting of all those aspects of ourselves that we've rejected and pushed away and try to hide, and that this world that we're in here is the middle world, and the upper world is the divine. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to be on that land and use that mythology to explore what aspects of ourselves we've rejected, shadow aspects of ourselves that it's important if we want to live from a path of integrity or integralness, oneness, that it's important to embrace those aspects. Take the underworld, merge it with the middle world, take the divine world, merge it with the middle world, and then we have the one, and that it's really not three separate worlds, but we embrace all those aspects of ourselves, what we've rejected, our human life and our divine life, into one. And what better place to do it but in this marvelous, stunning motherland, where it's just beautiful, and the ancient stones resonate with this message that we're trying to share with everybody on this trip.
Yeah, and I love the image of ruins. I mean, looking at the pictures and reading about it doesn't look good. But when you look a little bit deeper, and when you look a little bit longer, and when you begin to understand the history and the mythology, and it becomes to have more meaning. And I think it's the same for us, that when life feels like it's in ruins, that's just a moment of rebirth. But if we focus on the ruin, the rebirth cannot happen.
Exactly, and that is such a powerful image. I want everybody to know that on this journey, they're really going to have a chance to have powerful tools that they can go home with that are really going to assist them in their process, and to let folks know that they'll be able to go home and have some clarity and a little more inner peace to take home with them, to have skills to understand how they can create a love-based life for themselves, and to be able to I don't want to really use the word balance, because balance is one of those tricky words. What does it really mean? Because life is always shifting. So, the balance is always shifting. But to be able to have a little more understanding of how to make our lives more nourishing, maybe I can use that word, where we are having making the time to have our spiritual practice, to have our life externally, to have our family, to have our exploratory time, but to recognize all those aspects that make a fulfilling life, and to have the tools to come away from this trip, to have the tools to be able to create that. And I know, for one, that I'm excited about sharing some of the tools that I've learned over the years that my teacher has given me, and I know that you have so many of them, both from the Sufi path and from Science of Mind. And for people that really aren't familiar with that, they, I think, may not realize how powerful the tools that you're bringing to the table are, and that you will be teaching those tools to people to be able to do visioning and to do some of those other things that you normally teach in your community. And I'd love to hear about some of the things you'll be able to share with folks on the trip.
Well, I think when it gets all distilled, all these teachings, that what it's really about is for us to identify more with the part of us that's changeless, whether you call that your spiritual nature, your true heart, your essential nature, your divine self. It doesn't matter what you call it, but to identify more with that than to identify with your story, the dream, the challenges that we have in life, the labels that we put on ourselves, because that's really why we're here. That's why we're in a human body, so that we can once again remember who we are, identify with the truth of ourselves instead of the lies or the things that change, and that facilitates healing. And I love teaching because for 3 decades now, I watch people come into a workshop or a class, more so in the classes because they're long term, and I watch them be confused and lost and identified with the ideas of lack and limitations of self. Yeah. And I watch them apply the principles and practice the ideas, and I watch this light go back on, and I watch them get excited and feel empowered and change their lives. And I mean, I've seen people heal from AIDS. I've seen people heal from huge challenges with a parent. I've seen people healed from grief of losses through death or whatever the changes may have been. I've seen people thrive after they lost everything due to a fire or a hurricane or a tornado. And there is nothing more exciting than to see people realize that they are more than their belongings, more than their physical bodies, more than any challenge they could possibly have. And not only have you and I witnessed that, but we've experienced it ourselves. So what we share is really from our own experience, saying that, hey, if I can do this, if I can experience, anyone can. So we're just on the path together, sharing with each other. I mean, I'm there to learn from anybody that's coming on the trip, because I just love looking at my brothers and sisters and realizing that we're all in the same boat and we're all on the same path.
Exactly. Well said, my dear. Well said. Well, I also want everyone to know that we're really going to take advantage of where we're staying, and we're going to have some beautiful ceremonies in the Sinotays and at the pyramids and on the land. And I'm very excited, Frankie, to introduce you to Sinotays. They're one of my favorite things, you know.
I can't wait to dive into one.
I know.
They're very soon.
It's wonderful. They're crystal clear sinkholes, because the Yucatan is made of limestone, and the ocean underneath has eaten away areas of the limestone, and so it just takes the land away, and then the water filters through, so it's clear, fresh water, and it's crystal clear for like 100 feet. And I know we're going to have some beautiful ceremonies in the beautiful clear water and on the land and at the pyramids, and we're going to see some beautiful pyramids. We're also going to experience a bit of the culture there, so we're going to add a little bit of that. There's a fun show we're going to be seeing at night, and some wonderful dinners together, and nourishing food, and just the whole package where people are going to feel well nourished, not just from the food, but from the environment, from the activities. And there'll also be enough time for people to have some respite, to have some alone time, to journal, we've worked so hard to create the perfect balance on this trip. And I feel really excited about the opportunity. And what's really important, I think, is for people to make the commitment to say yes, to come along with us, and to just open their hearts and souls and come for the experience and for the transformation, and to be held in a non-judgmental space and supported by people who are going to be interested in them for who they are, and to just bring that light out within all of us. And that's what's juicy for me.
And I think that the trip starts now. The trip started when you and I visioned, and when you and I had the idea, and when you presented it to me. And the trip starts now for anybody seeing this video for the first time. And so if anybody feels like, oh, I would love to do that, it's for them to listen to the I would love to do that rather than the voice pops up right away, says, yeah, but, right, I'm too busy, I don't have enough money, I don't have time. What we listen to that calling and listen to that, because to me, that's that inner guidance when we get quiet and listening to what it is that we really need. Because there are always more reasons to say no. There are always more reasons to say no, but when we listen to the call of the heart and the heart says yes, and listening to that yes and following that yes, everything else takes care of itself.
Exactly. I agree 100%. I agree. I think if people are looking for a respite, if they're looking for clarity, if they're looking to get away in a beautiful sacred space, if they're looking to bring in the new year in a really powerful way, if they're looking to be in a beautiful spiritual community, this is the trip for you. And I know both I think I can speak for Frankie on this. We both would love to see you on the trip and have the opportunity to share and grow and learn with you in this very beautiful environment. So I invite you to come along and sign up and be with us and explore. And if you have any questions, I am happy to answer any questions. Just email us at journeysofthespirit.com, and Frankie would be happy to answer any questions about anything that she'll be teaching, about Sufi, about science of mind, whatever question you have. So don't be shy. We're here for you. We're here in service to you. And we would love to share whatever we can. So, gosh, Frankie, thank you so much for being here with us to be able to share a little bit about this trip. I really appreciate it.
Oh, this is fun. I've never done this before, this video call. I love it. And I also want everybody to know that in my work, I have been in prayer and in my spiritual practice to really hold the vision for this and for everybody that's coming, really holding the highest and the best, that everything unfolds beautifully and perfectly, and that those who are wanting to come and meant to come are truly provided for in whatever way necessary, whatever way possible, because that's the work I do, is to just hold the higher vision and to know that it is just filled with light and with love and with peace and harmony. So it's already in the mind of the universe, it's already a magnificent experience.
Oh, thank you, Frankie. I love you.
Love you too.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here with Frankie and I. We look forward to seeing you on this magnificent journey, and many blessings on your path, and may it be filled with light and love.